Rogers, we have the distinct honor of representing the family of Brianna Grier. Also present with us, we are so proud to have our leader in the state of Georgia, the NAACP President, Gerald Griggs, who has been supporting the family in our efforts since this tragedy first happened. Most importantly, we have here today the mother of Brianna Grier, Miss Marion Grier, and the sister of Brianna Grier, Lottie Grier. Ever since this happened on July 15th, when Miss Mary called the police department there in Hancock County, Georgia, because her daughter was having a mental health crisis. No criminal issue, a mental health crisis. This young, beautiful black woman needed help. The police came and put her in handcuffs. Miss Mary and her father, they wanted the police to help her, take her to the hospital to get help. They had come before when she had mental health crisis. While they were taking her to the jail, her mother and father will question themselves forever why they called the police if they were not going to help her. They handcuffed her, put her in the back of the police car. As Attorney Hertz and I discovered, they claimed that they had her restrained and that the car door was closed. That's what they said in the beginning. That was the narrative. They tried to say that Brianna Grier, this 120-pound young black woman, mother of twins, daughters, 4 years old at the time, they tried to say she had superhuman strength. In Portia, they tried to say she kicked open the police door. That's what they wanted us to believe. They wanted to just sweep it under the rug. But thank God that you had a family who said that's not true. They wanted answers. Because the reality is they never closed that door and secured that vehicle. And when they were on the road, she fell out of that car, and since she was handcuffed, there was no breaking the fall. Her skull hit the road, it cracked in 2 places. She had a brain bleed. She went into a coma, and 6 days later, her twin daughters lost their mother because of gross negligence at the hands of the police department that was supposed to help this young black woman who was having a mental health crisis, which is far too common, Mr. President, in the state of Georgia. And it is because of this reason that we're here today standing with her mother, because her father died after he lost his daughter 2 months later of congenital heart failure. But her mother tells everybody, now my husband died from a broken heart, because he loved Brianna. He loved her. She was a good person, and Lottie and them talk about how she was intelligent. She went to college, and it was while she was at college started having the mental health issues. And she did not deserve this. But for those reasons, and on behalf of those twin daughters who are now 5 years old, Attorney Hertz and I are announcing that we have filed a $100 million civil rights excessive force lawsuit against the Hancock County police officers because there is no excuse, no justification why Brianna Grier is dead and why she died in such a horrific manner. Falling out the back of an unsecure police vehicle traveling on the highway, her head colliding with the concrete on the street, causing a brain bleed. And her daughters continue to ask questions all the time about their mother. And so, when they grow up, we want her daughters to know that we fought for her mother. We want her daughters to know that even though the police did not treat her with respect, that with this civil lawsuit, we are demanding respect for Brianna Grier, this beautiful young black mother who was taken from this earth far too soon. This is what this is about. Brianna Grier. Her life mattered. Our brothers and sisters who are suffering from mental illness, they matter. Governor Kemp, they matter. We have to do something about this mental health epidemic in the state of Georgia. At this time, you will hear from my most worthy and able co-counsel, a giant in civil rights law here in Georgia, who I'm proud to fight on the front line for whom my grandmother called the least of these. And he has been championing the cause for Brianna since day one. He's been to Sparta countless times, saying that if nobody else seems to care about Brianna, we care. And so, Attorney Eric Hertz, thank you for caring, and please tell the press why this lawsuit is so important, not only to Brianna, but to Georgia.
We have a problem, a very big problem, where mental health patients, mental health people are being treated by police in Georgia. This is not the first incident, but we hope it will be the last. It is our goal in this case to get the highest verdict that's ever been in Georgia against this type and send a message all the way up to the top that this should not happen. That when someone has a mental health problem, they should not be thrown on the ground, tasered, or at least have the taser, scare them with the taser, thrown in the back of a sheriff's patrol unit, handcuffed in front, and then driven off without even shutting the door for them to be ejected out onto the ground where they hurt their head and die 6 days later. It should not happen. And we have the civil justice system to protect us, all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Hertz. Thank you, Attorney Counsel Rogers. It's always a team effort when you fight these fights. And hopefully more of you will join the team, saying that our brothers and sisters who are suffering from mental health deserve better. Georgia, they deserve better. before you hear from Brianna's mother, I want you all to hear from a leader who speaks truth to power, who serves with integrity, and fights for the least of these, even when it's inconvenient, even when they say it's unpopular. And I'm just proud to call him my brother and my leader. Our president of the Georgia NAACP, Attorney Gerald Griggs.
What happened to Brianna Grier should never have happened. And when I got the phone call, both from Attorney Ben Crump and from President Mary Warren of the Hancock County NAACP, we knew we had to support this family. We went down with Smarter twice. We continue to uplift this family, and we call for change in Georgia. Far too often we have individuals in mental health distress, and the only organization or the only individuals that can respond are law enforcement. And in this case, like countless other cases, it ended in the untimely and illegal death of an innocent person. And so we will continue to advocate on behalf of Brianna Grier through the Hancock County NAACP and all other 100 units of the NAACP. And as we told Lottie, told the mother, that we will continue to push for justice and accountability in this case. But let's be clear. Georgia has a problem responding to mental health emergencies. We need to fully fund our mental health services in this state. And so again, we call on the governor, just like we did a few days ago in the LaShawn Thompson case, that Georgia has to fully fund mental health facilities. It's a shame that the biggest providers of mental health services in Georgia are the detention centers, the jails, and the prisons. That has to change, and it has to change now. Brianna Grier should be here raising her two beautiful daughters instead of us standing outside of a courthouse demanding justice for her. And so on behalf of the Georgia State Conference and the Hancock County NAACP, will continue to push for justice and accountability in this case. We think the proper place to litigate this is in a courtroom, but make no mistake about it. Georgia has a police brutality problem. Georgia has an underfunded mental health services issue, and it lays at the footsteps of elected officials. So we need legislation, we need accountability, and we need change. And so on behalf of the Georgia State Conference, we are demanding that three things. One, the governor meet with this family. Number two, we fully fund our mental health services. And number three, it is mandated in every police department that crisis interveners are sent out on mental health calls. We don't need law enforcement responding. We need crisis interveners who know how to deal with these issues. So on behalf of the Georgia NAACP, amen, that's a demand. The ball is in the politicians' court. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you for your leadership. At this time, you're going to hear from your Lord. Thank you. At this time, you're going to hear from the people who knew Brianna Grier the most. You're going to hear from her mother, Mary, who is dealing with such loss because her husband, Mr. Marvin Lewis Grier, Brianna's father, died just a couple of months after Brianna died, and they said it was for congenital heart failure. But as Miss Mary would tell you, that's not what he died from. She struggles with what to tell 5-year-old Mariah and Maria when they ask, why did the police do this to my mama? What happened to my mama? Where is my mama? she struggles with that. And so we can't have her standing in this world alone, her and Lottie. We got to stand with her to answer those questions and help raise these angels. It is truly going to take a village.
That's right.
And Miss Mary, we're all here with you. The village is here with you. So she's going to speak from the heart best she can. She's not an attorney. She's a broken-hearted mother. So, yeah, Miss Mary Grier.
Good evening. I just want y'all to know that Brianna, my baby daughter, she lost 2 of her babies, and that's Maria and Mariah Grier. And they constantly asking about their mother. And I tell them, I don't lie to them. I tell them the truth. She's gone home to live with God. And my husband, Marvin Grier, he died a few months after her. And he loved his daughters, Maria and Mariah. And he had to suffer because they didn't, he didn't want to lie to them about how she died or when she died or nothing like that. So we had to talk about it in a way that they might understand. So we told them that she go home to live with God. And right now, anytime they see their mother picture, they say, Brianna, Brianna. I say, that's your mother, Brianna Grier. And they keep that in their mind, Brianna Grier, Brianna Grier. Mm-hmm. And I don't try to tell them nothing wrong, but what happened to their mother was not her fault.
No.
And for them, Hancock County, to do something to her, and they knew her condition. They knew it. That wasn't the first time they're coming down there. And I don't think they did her right.
No, they did not.
And I miss my daughter. She had some weird ways. Me and her like to sing and to talk sometimes, but she wasn't no bad person. She wasn't no bad person. But Lord, sometimes she has her ways just like normal people does, but that can be rectified. And they didn't have to put her. And something else I noticed when they were taking her out, they carried her out like a log. Mm-hmm. One had legs and one had arms. And I don't know whether anybody was told this, but they dropped her at the fork of the road, at the car, down there, because the car was parked in the fork. And they dropped her, and they threw her in the car. And I saw that, and by the time I called them, they just got in the car and left. And I just didn't appreciate that, you know.
She deserved better.
Yeah, she did. She deserved much better than that. She wasn't no animal. She ain't no animal. She wasn't no bad person. She just had some problems that she couldn't control.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
My baby, Brianna Grier, she wasn't no animal. She wasn't no bad person. She just had some problems that she couldn't control.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you so much, Miss Mary. You want to show me your baby again?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Miss Mary. Thank you so much, Miss Mary. Hold on. Now we're going to hear from her sister, Lottie, who is Maria's aunt, and who's helping her mother best she can work and raise her nieces. nieces in the aftermath of this tragedy. Lottie.
My name is Slotty, and I'm Brianna's older sister. It don't matter how many times we do this, it doesn't get easier at all. But Brianna was a good person. I miss her. Um, she didn't deserve the way she died. She didn't deserve what happened. And to see her babies have to grow up without her, it hurts. And I know, once they get older, they'll be able to understand. But right now, they don't understand. But she deserved justice.
Justice for Brianna.
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 Thank you, Lottie. And then just a final speaker, and then we'll get to your questions. Ms. Portia Miller, who is an activist who's been championing the cause for Brianna from the beginning. Portia?
My name is Portia Miller, Porchse Miller, Miller. I'm a national civil rights activist and one of the lead community organizers here in the Atlanta metro area. When we talk about Brianna Grier, we talk about a black woman that was neglected for her mental health. When we see the tape, we realize that they did not pay attention to the signs. They more paid attention to their job. And what's so more heartbreaking about the job that was admitted to Brianna Grier, it was black police officers, just like Tyree Nichols, just like LaShawn Thompson with the Fulton County Sheriff Department. Many times often here in Georgia, they label mental health as a red flag. That is right next to malice, murder, manslaughter, and strong arm robbery. So we must look at this stuff with a clear eye view of what the problem is. The problem is not only that mental health is looked down upon as a problem with not only the black community, but with the legal system. I am proud to say that this family has a legal team behind them that is able to see that there is a problem and a very bad police problem in the state of Georgia. Not only in the state of Georgia, but it's all over the country. If you look at it, mental health have taken over increasingly since the pandemic. Not only people of color, but every race there's known to man. And as a person that advocates for veterans, as a U.S. Army vet, I notice as black women, we are the most neglected, most devalued, and looked at more worse than anyone in the country. We are here to stand for the voice of Brianna Grier. Because when she told the officers she was not intoxicated, they did not listen. When the family, her father, Marvin Grier, told them that their daughter was in a mental health crisis, they did not pay attention. Not only they neglected her, but they had her in a vehicle that was very unsafe, and they end up having her outside of the vehicle. We're here standing with the family of Breonna Taylor. We're here to stand with her mother and her sister Lottie. Sometimes you make friends with the voiceless. But at the same time, we have to be real with ourselves. We have to do more than just speak up. Like Lottie said, we could do this all day long. But if we don't get justice for our people, because justice never equates death. But if we don't get justice for our people, we will continue to be going through the vicious cycle that we go through every single day. There is no life or death sentence when it comes to the health of mental illness. So thank y'all so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, Portia. And I want to give a word to my co-counsel, the sister who's fighting on this legal team with us. She's also fighting with us on Tyree Nichols' tragic killing in Memphis. She is an incredible lawyer. Attorney LaShonda, Counsel Rogers.
Good evening. I stand before you with sorrow. Yes, I am an attorney, but above and beyond, I am a woman of color and I am a mother. Imagine standing in this family's shoes through no fault of your own, and not only do you lose your daughter, you lose your husband, no matter what the autopsy reports say, We all know he died of a broken heart. And all of this could have been prevented. We should not criminalize the fact that Brianna had a mental health condition. We go to the doctor if we have a broken arm. We go to the doctor if we have a broken leg and if we're sick. Mental illness is a sickness, and it should be treated as such by law enforcement. This is a tragic death, and this family will continue to suffer forever. 2 young black women will have to grow up without their mother, without their father. And we ask why. And what are we going to do to hold the higher ups, those that be, accountable, so this does not happen to yet another family? So we ask everyone to please not only put on your legal hat, put on your hat of humanity, the hat of a mother who is mourning the loss of, again, not just her children, but her husband. She is alone through no fault of her own. We ask everyone to stand up and be accountable to this family and every family that this potentially could happen to if we do not act now.
Thank you, Attorney LaShonda Counsel Rogers. And in absence, thank you to Attorney Jeff Gortz, who's been working hard like everybody else. Had to be in court, but he's here with us in spirit. We're going to get to your questions now. I think you had a question for, and as best you can, let's get you right here in the center with the mics. Take your time.
This is where you talk a lot about your husband, your children, your daughter. Can you talk to us about how you're feeling, how you're doing right now?
How I'm doing right now? It's very hard for me right now because I have to, oh, okay.
She said it's
I
very
have,
hard.
Hold one second. Let's see if we can get this truck.
You got it?
And
She's very soft-spoken, so just give her grace. Yeah.
it's a very hard thing you have to go through, and especially with my grandchildren. They talk about their mother, and you want to tell them the truth, but something you just have to wait to tell them. But they are very smart, and they know. When they ask me, where's Mama, where's Brianna, I said, God have her in the palm of his hand. And one day you're going to see her again, because that to me is true. And yes, ma'am, that's what they say to me. And I don't want to lie to them, but it's just certain part I don't tell them right now.
Ms. Mayor, she asked, how hard was it for you?
I tried to speak earlier. Can I ask you again? How are you feeling? How are you doing?
Broken. Truly broken, because that was my baby. And that was my baby. And I didn't want to see nothing like that happen to her, because she had a strong hair on her body. She was very smart. And Brianna didn't want nobody to fool. And what happened to her, it shouldn't have happened. And it hurt me. It really hurt me. Sometimes I can be going through the house and, I see her picture here, her picture there, but Brianna won't be coming back.
Right.
So that is a very painful feeling.
Thank you so much, Ms. Mayor. You have another question?
If you don't mind, would you be able to share with me some of the help that your daughter was able to get for her condition? Was there a lot of resources available in Hancock County, or not so much?
No.
How important is it for
Attorney, didn't they close down a facility?
Yes, it did.
Okay. We'll let you answer then. Some others will talk about the resources. Well, you had another question for Ms. Merritt?
How important do you feel like it is for other women in your town to be able to have those resources available to them so that they can get that help that they need, and it doesn't have to be a police officer interview?
I think before anybody else go through that, the resources need to be ready to run. That's the way I look at it.
And as Miss Mary and Mr. Marvin said before he died, they regret ever calling the police. They regret it.
And one more thing
Yes,
I want to
ma'am.
say, because the night of the Lord, please forgive me. The night Brianna died, I just leave it like that. The night they came down. Okay. I didn't think so. Okay. The night they came down, 2 officers came to get Brianna and take her to the car.
Oh, you said
But the way they carried her to the car, they carried her like an animal. And I stood on the porch and watched them. And when they got to the car, they dropped her on that concrete. They dropped her. And after they dropped her, they threw her in the car. And about, I said, less than 15 minutes, the sheriff came to my door and knocked and said, Brianna had fallen out the car. And how did she fall out the car? And then he said she opened the door, but how can she open the door of an inside back seat of the police car and it's locked and they supposed to have her in handcuffs? How in the world did that happen?
Yeah.
Somebody lied somewhere. Because if they had her in the seat properly, that wouldn't have happened.
That's right.
Yeah. There's no way to justify this.
That's right.
There's no way. I don't know if President Griggs or Attorney Hertz want to talk about lack of resources in Hancock
I
County.
need to just make a couple of statements if I could. One of the problems of going against law enforcement is that a lot of times the people that are enforcing the law enforcement laws are law enforcement themselves. And it gets very confusing. But I do want to make it clear that this is a lawsuit against Hancock County Sheriff Department. And, you know, we've used the word police interchangeable, but it is Hancock County Sheriff Department. Thank you.
And just to follow up on the lack of resources, Georgia has a chronic underfunding of its hospitals, particularly its mental health facilities. Most of them have been closed and now have been surrogated through the county detention centers, the jails, and the prisons. So that's why it's important that we fully fund our mental health services in the state of Georgia, so that you don't have a law enforcement officer responding, you have a crisis intervener or somebody that knows how to deal with issues of people in mental health distress. And I would also point out in Sparta, in Hancock County, if you go to the detention center, the ambulance barn is right next to the sheriff's department and the detention center. So easily they could have sent EMTs or the ambulance instead of sending the sheriff's department. And so I think it's important and it's incumbent upon our politicians to fully fund our mental health services so that these type of incidents don't happen again. I think it cannot be underscored. This is a legislative and a policy issue as well as a justice and accountability issue. It's time for Georgia to get on the right side of mental health services through crisis interveners and fully funding our mental health services through the state of Georgia.
Amen. And Portia, you want to say something briefly on that?
Oh, yeah, sure I will. In rural South Georgia, a lot of hospitals have been closed down due to lack of funds. And we do know that one of our prominent hospitals here in Atlanta have been shut down in the middle of the Black marginalized communities. Mental health, you cannot not have insurance without getting assistance. If you don't have some type of free health care to get therapy or help with your children, you would have to call the police. And that's why I was saying that mental health is red flagged right along with malice murder, murderers, and strong armed robbers. The lack of resources as far as the black community is now at a real all-time high. We are now in a war with Medicaid, even when it comes to our seniors. The thing of the matter is, the police officers should not go to a mental health crisis call unless they have social workers with them. The police department really needs to hire a lot more social workers.
Thank you, Portia. Any other questions? If not, just like we said Breonna Taylor's name and fought for justice in Kentucky, we have to say Brianna Grier's name here in Georgia. Say her name.
Brianna Grier.
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 Brianna, life mattered.
Yes.
We'll continue to keep you updated. Thank you to the NAACP. Thank you to all the activists. Thank you to everybody in Sparta, from Atlanta and back to Sparta, for standing with this family. We can't do it alone. To get justice for Brianna and to get answers for Mariah and Maria, it's going to take a team effort. Thank you, Attorney Hertz, Attorney Counsel Rogers, Attorney Gertz. It's going to take a team effort. Thank you.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.